Good morning. It's the first LAMP session at IETF 124. If that's not your destination, you should deplane now. Um, like all sessions at the IETF, we're under the note well. There's now this cool QR code on the note well slide. So if you're not familiar with the note well, this will take you to all the documents you need to read to know what your rights, it's on. Is this any better? Wow. um, um, so uh, the note well tells you what your rights, your privileges, and your most importantly responsibilities are if you're going to contribute in the IETF. Please make sure that you're aware of those before you contribute. Please, please, please treat each other with respect, and it's okay to vehemently disagree with an idea, but do so in a respectful way. We have a pretty long agenda, but this shows that we're actually producing a whole lot of documents. You can see all of these got RFC numbers since the last IETF. That's pretty incredible, especially given the number of documents that are in the RC editor queue at the moment. So congratulations on these. Then we have a bunch that are in the RFC editor queue. And so the top two made it out, yes. But they made it out after the slide, so we just annotated them here. And then we have a few that are in the review process with the ISG. Some of these will need talked about because they have open issues, or the authors want to make sure you're comfortable with how they addressed an issue. And then we have some documents related to PKIX that people want to talk about. Some documents related to SMIME. We now have an agenda bash that we want to talk about the CMS BIS document, the BCP document, not the BIS document, sorry. Daniel's document. It's been discussed on the list quite a bit. So we'll add that here. And then there's things that we are looking to it, and in fact, it's here. It's B under. Oh, yeah. Yep. So that should be earlier in the agenda. And then the last item here, E, 7E, just got submitted this morning. So we have drafts to talk about there. The last D and E other. And then we have one in the penalty box, right? That is to say, we are not talking about this today, and any attempt to bring it up will be shut down. That document has a design team meeting scheduled as a virtual interim, and that is when we will talk about that one. And if you don't have the context, there's plenty of email on the mail list about that. So, are there any agenda bashes? Yes. Yes. We got email about that this morning, so that will be added.
It's on my internal agenda.
Okay. Any other agenda bashes?
Can I be a complete pest? The last two things there, 7D and E. I may have a conflict. Is there any chance we can do them today? And if not, it's fine. They can totally just flash the slides up for 20 seconds. It's one slide.
I see. All right. So Michael Richardson just said that we have one slide from him about 70-30 BIS. He'd like to add that. I guess that would be wanting adopted, right? No, you don't want it adopted?
I want to have a conversation.
Okay.
How is that related to 7A?
It's not.
Same document, different conversation.
Correct.
Got it.
Okay. Then I think we are going to start with the CM. So we're here. Yes. Okay, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Mike Owensworth had agreed to be a note taker, and so now Michael Richardson has agreed to be his backup. All right. Okay. So are we ready for agenda item 4A? Oh, all right. So the CMC BIS, please. Sean.
Oh, clicker. Oh, I'm in charge. Awesome. Hey, nice pink slides just to make sure you're awake this morning. CMC BIS. So this document is basically out of the working group. We did get some comments from the ISG, and so we're trying to work through those. And we got a lot of comments. The basic thing is, though, I think we worked through all of them. We got various directorate comments in the whole 9 yards. The most interesting one we saved for its own special PR, excuse me, which Ben Kadek, a former SEC AD, was like, hey, you guys do envelope data. What about auth envelope data? Why is that not in there? And we couldn't come up with a good reason not to include it, so we did. So unfortunately, that comment was on 5273, and that meant changing all of the documents. So we had to basically put text in every place and try to figure out, like, everywhere it said envelope data, just do auth envelope data. I tried to be cute and be like, oh, maybe we can, since it's auth envelope data, you can, you get some integrity if you can, like, skip a signature. I spent a couple of days talking with Russ, and he's like, I don't think so. So because you still need the signature, right? You have to do pop. So at the end of the day, what we ended up doing is just wherever there's envelope data, it says and auth envelope data. So it's kind of sneaky. You can check. We're gonna leave the PR, let this one sit for a while because it was kind of a doozy. Joe and I were like, yeah, I think we got every place. But I think that it's pretty interesting. So you can see what we did, where we also made it the primary, because there was the clause in there about envelope data where that was the primary mechanism, and we just changed it to auth envelope data, because if you have your choice, you would pick the other one. You'd pick the better one because you can get some integrity. The thing is, there's no real must in there, right? It's kind of the way the 5274 is written for its conformance requirements. It's like, if you do this, then you got to do that. And so we kind of left it the same. Like, if you're going to do envelope data, you do this. If you do auth envelope data, you do this, because this would be a breaking change for older implementations, which would not support them. So one of the open questions we have is, hey, now we got to pick some algorithm requirements. I don't want to start a big fight about this, but there's really two options, right? There's A is CCM and A is GCM. I figure we should just put GCM because it seems to be the one that most people would use in a messaging setting. Does anybody disagree with that? Does anybody really want to fall on a sword for A is CCM? I'm seeing a couple heads shaking no. So that's good. So we can do that. That'll be great. And like I said, we're going to let this one sit for a while because it's kind of a big change. And now I'm going to give it over to Joe.
All right, I'm going to cover kind of the rest of the updates that we made. So 5272, we're just updating all we put it in so that to update all the references. You can't hear me? Is this better? Okay. Still on my.
Lower the
Okay.
thing.
This is good. Okay. Yeah. So we're updating the references that are in there for 5272, 6402, and then 2797. That was about it for that document. I mean, it is a lot of changes, but it's just in one section. It's not throughout the whole document. So 5273, from this sector review, we updated the security considerations to handle file-based permissions and then mail-based. So for the file-based, we just put in a short statement about, like using just read access for for a particular user or a group. And then for the mail-based, we said use envelope data or SMTP over TLS. All right. So for the HTTP review, so we did not place a requirement for HTTP. There was one in there before, but we basically wanted to back that out and just allow whichever the implementer wanted to use. Restrict early data for TLS 1.3 and quick. Then what else was there? We also added a reference to 9205. Yeah, 9205 for that piece. And then previously there was a response code specified. We didn't really have a good answer for why that was specified, so we said kind of just leave it up to the implementer to figure out at that point. For TCP pipelining, we put a statement in there. Clients must wait to get a full response. Nothing crazy there. And then for 5274, there was really no big changes. You see that like spacing, brackets around references, that was a mistake we made. I think somewhere along the lines we deleted them out and somebody noticed, so we just added them right back in. And then capitalized terminology. For next steps, we want to potentially hear from implementers to see if what we added is going to break anything, if they're okay with it. And then, like Sean covered, the getting feedback for auth envelope data. And done.
Any questions for? Okay, Victor.
I saw a comment about mail-based SMTP with TLS. That's largely unrealistic because applications don't deliver the mail all the way to the receiving system, right? They at best queue it over SMTP to a submission agent. So you're not really getting what you think you're getting when you tell applications to do SMTP over TLS. There is a require TLS option that you can attempt to use. It's far from widely implemented. It's just starting to get minuscule traction at the moment. So you can't really do much with asking for SMTP over TLS in a context where the application is sending a message. That's just not going to happen.
So we did kind of put something in there about how it does not provide it might not provide hop-to-hop security. So
all I can say is, Victor, we would welcome your review. You know this better than I do. So if you can, there's like one section, and if you can tell us the right words that need to go in there, we can do it. And we basically admit that the chances of us actually getting this is probably pretty low, but it's if you're going to do it, then you should do this. That's kind of how this section reads.
Okay.
All right, cool. And again, this is the reason why we brought this up here is, right, it's already been through working group last call. We made a bunch of changes. We want to make sure everybody's fine with it. If you think we're nuts, please get to the microphone and let us know. Obviously, this is going to continue. Russ and Tim will do their chair thing later, but this is really kind of a scream now and let me know if we're in the wrong place. Oh no, we're already through the telechat, but we're making pretty big changes like musts and shoulds and stuff. So, all right, cool.
Now we got someone coming to the mic.
Oh, and I guess I should say just a big shout out to Alicia at Red Hat, because we did actually find implementations. And so I'm actually in contact with them to be if we're like super smashing anything that they did. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Are you coming to the mic?
Hey, hi, Mohibul Mahmood. I would like to know, are you planning to include new crypto like
So we talked about this a couple meetings ago. To add PQ stuff, I think when we talked with the CMP authors, we're like, we're just trying to get the base protocol updated, and then we're going to add PQ stuff. We're going to do that next, because this is an easier change than having a death match about what algorithms to pick.
No death matches. Okay, thank you.
We were going to discuss it's the same set of slides. So we're going to discuss this with positive sakes.
Okay, so 4B, we're going to wait and do together with a later agenda item.
Yep.
And
We don't have slides on CRO validation.
CRO validation. Corey, is there any issues you've gotten through the ISG?
Yeah, so we got an initial review from Deb last week on the mailing list, responded to that yesterday. So good feedback there. We'll probably push an update to the draft. And if anyone else has anything else, please speak up on the list.
Next would be attestation questions.
So that's 5A, right?
It's 5A. Yep.
Okay. Attestation. Who's talking to this?
Hi, Russ. Hi, Tim. Hi, everyone. It would actually be good if Sean could give the presentation, because he's on site and he was just in front of the room, instead of me talking about it from remote.
Remote, live, and in a hallway. I appreciate that.
But I just waving hello to everyone. So
All right, so this non-space freshness. There's a couple of new authors. Joe and I worked together to add a bunch of CMC stuff, and so Hannes was like, "Hey, man, you gave us a bunch of text. Your name goes here." So we did. All right, status update. We added a bunch of stuff for CMC. Basically, we were kind of like, "Hey, CMC could do this thing too. What do you got to do?" So we're gonna have another slide for that later. For EST, there was some request response exchange were not quite specified as well as I could. So we basically provided some examples. It's pretty straightforward. I'll be curious to see what's going on with 7030 bits to make sure we're not stepping on anybody's toes. Again, the same thing. The updates need to be the examples we had weren't exactly kind of like completely specified. So we did a better job here. And CMC, this is a little trickier because CMP has this way of like having this request messages like, "Hey, give me something." CMC doesn't have that. It's just sending requests. So we kind of had to like look at it sideways and be like, so how do we have a generic message? It's like, "Hey, give me some random thing." So we basically came up with this idea that the PKI data supports a sequence of 4 things. It's like controls, requests, blobs, and arbitrary data. But if you look at the ASN1, it's actually the sequence size of 0.max. So that means you can send a message with just a control. So essentially, we're sending a PKI message, a PKI data message just with a control. And then there was this other problem. You had to put assigned data around it. Well, hey, guess what? You don't have a key at this point when you're doing these attestation things. So you just send it with ID data. So, and then the other thing was, what controls are we going to use? Well, we're just going to repeat exactly what was CMP. There's no reason to do something different. You want to use the same thing. So there's a couple of changes that need to happen to get this first flow to get the information back from the CA / RA or whatever. And so I think this kind of works, but I definitely think it needs to get reviewed. All right, I'm lingering here because this is one of the big changes. All right, there's a new feature for optional payloads in the nonce request. For key attestation, it might be required to provide some additional data requesting a nonce. So you can basically stick it in with this additional field. I see Mike shaking. I see both Mike shaking their heads like, yeah, sure. So like, we're not crazy. That's good stuff. All right, crazy, but yeah. All right. So this document obviously depends on the CSR attestation draft. So sorry, I wasn't supposed to talk about that draft. So
Into the penalty box.
we need to make sure that we stay aligned. So I think basically the one will go before the other. And I think that probably works out all right. Any comments? I know that was kind of quick.
Just a quick one. Stefan Santesson. Some years ago, I implemented CMC for doing a lot more than the standard certificate request. We did the whole CA admin stuff over CMC.
Yeah.
I wished I had something like this.
Oh.
We did exactly what you said, but we had to tweak it in there. So I think it's a good thing.
Awesome. That was
Great.
dumb luck, by the way. There was no setup there at all. All right. Cool.
Okay.
Great. So I think we're basically at the point where we're just kind of waiting. I don't know that there's much else to do here. I don't know, Hannes, if you're still there, if you got anything to add, but I think we're basically I think we're done. But I think we should wait to do any kind of last call in case this other not to be mentioned draft gets changed too.
Yeah, we definitely have to wait for the CSR attestation work because, as you said, like we depend on it. Depends on what the final result there is. We may need to update this document. And also on this new feature that was mentioned on the key attestation, that's something that is not yet in the draft. This is just something that was observed when looking at the recent work in RATS on key attestation, that we may be missing a field here. So this is sort of like, yeah, we need to work this out and we'll get back. So maybe we could do this in the meanwhile while we are waiting for the CSR attestation, and then I hope we are done. There's also implementation work, at least at Siemens for the CMP stuff. I will distribute some pointers to the code. Some of it has already been released to the public. Others is work in progress. So people can then play around with it.
Cool. Thanks. I just want to say there's now 2 of us in the penalty box.
Next is
Is what?
cert discovery.
Okay, certificate discovery.
Hi, John here. I'll be talking about certificate discovery when the deck comes up. So yeah, there's a number of us on the draft. So Tomofumi, Corey, myself, Mike, and Joe. And we also are going to invite David Hook, but I'll talk about that after. So certificate discovery was adopted, I think, a couple IETFs ago. Just to a brief refresher, it basically allows cross-linking between identity or potentially CA certificates. It's basically an SIA extension, standard 5280 extension. We created a new access method so you can reference to another certificate. It also can contain the full certificate. And yeah, so you've seen this slide before. I'm not going to spend time on it. Just get to the differences, but since the last IETF. So this one, not huge changes, I guess. Just basically we reorganized the AS1. So we changed the cert reference structure and renamed it to just cert discovery method. So you can see on the left there, kind of the new and the old. So in the new one, I think we just made it a little more clear, like we'd say by URI. So then you can have the cert location, which then you can see below is just the hash and the URI to actually point to the reference, or you can do by inclusion. So in the previous draft, we called that direct certificate. So in the certificate. So we just reorganized that. The one new thing is this thing called by local policy. We thought this would be a good addition because there could be, like you might have some kind of local configuration and your certificate's already available to you. So that this way, this allows you to say that your certificate is done that way by local policy. So yeah, so that's kind of the major changes, I guess, with the AS1. The only other things are obviously minor editorial changes because we always need those, right? Fix things. And then, of course, we added an IANA consideration section to actually request the OIDs and things that we're going to need for this to work. And the one other thing I was going to mention a bit earlier. So there's been some comments on in the LAMPS working group about what's going on with Chameleon. This is, any of you remember what that is, this was kind of a way of encoding the differences between two certificates in an extension. Since the cert discovery can include the full certificate, we were thinking, well, and most of the authors on this draft actually are authors on Chameleon. We thought we probably don't need to pursue Chameleon any longer. So the only real advantage of Chameleon would be that because of it codes the differences, you actually get a smaller encoding in the extension. But we could also even consider maybe doing some of those optimizations in cert discovery for that if we wanted. And also cert discovery, the Chameleon had some limitations and to do with how you include extensions. So you couldn't have an extension that was different than what was in the base certificate, which because that helped with the encoding of the full certificate after you pulled it out. So yeah, so we think that's no longer needed, and we are inviting David Hook to be an author since he was the only one of us that was not on that draft. So hope everyone's okay with that. Okay, Russ.
Could you back up one slide?
Sure.
Why do you need another name?
Sorry, what? Another name?
You have dash ID mod, then you have a dash AD, and then you have a dash ON, which is other name.
Oh, okay. That could, maybe that's yeah, maybe we don't need that. Okay. Yeah, we can fix that.
So that's a typo.
That's probably a typo, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Thanks for noticing that. Yeah, so next steps then would be, we didn't get to produce samples during the hackathon. We were hoping to, so we're still in the process of we're going to produce some samples to show this. We want to add those into the draft. And then I think the next step would be to ask for working group last call. So, Corey, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to respond to Russ's comment.
Okay, yeah, you respond.
Yeah, so we have the one OID for the access method, and then we have the other name form to actually contain the descriptor itself. So if you back up a slide or two to show up the ASN1, that's actually what's included in the general name for the other name.
Oh yes, that's right. Thanks. Thanks, Corey, for that clarification. So, any other comments? So, I guess people are okay with just not continuing with Chameleon, and I don't hear any comments, so I guess we'll do that. All right. Okay, I guess that's it.
Any further questions? Okay.
Did anyone actually read the draft?
I read the previous.
The previous, okay. Okay.
All right. So you're going to, after you have some samples, then you're going to ask
yes,
for.
after we have some samples, we'll ask for working group last call. Or if there's more comments or whatever, but that's the current plan. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, who's here to talk about CAA? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, today
Way close to the microphone.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so today I'll present our progress on the CA security draft. So my name is Cyril. I'm one of the authors of this draft. Henry couldn't make it today, so I'm replacing him. So we didn't do any textual changes on the draft, so it's still the same draft as in the last IETF, but we have some progress on the deployment, and I want to a little bit just keep it fresh in your mind. So a brief overview of the draft for those who haven't read it or who have read it a while ago. So it introduces a new security CAA tag that mandates CA to perform a cryptographic domain control validation. And with cryptographic domain control validation, we mean a validation that is resilient against network adversaries. So it uses cryptographic primitives instead of relying on the absence of a network adversary on the path. And if we simplify the certificate issuance by quite a bit, we essentially have two attack points for an adversary, right? They can attack the process where the CA is retrieved from the DNS system, or it can attack the part where the domain control validation is actually performed with the name server or with the web server. And ideally, we want to defend against both of those. So for the first part, for the CA retrieval, I want to highlight that we believe that this is feasible in the near future. So there's two important points. One is in order to enable incremental deployability, so we can have like a few CAs implement this system and not all of them, we need to set the critical flag in the CAA DNS record to ensure that if a CA doesn't understand it, they will simply reject issuance. And of course, we need to securely retrieve the CA records, so an adversary cannot mess with them and spoof them. So we can, in the draft, we describe two ways of securely retrieving the CA records. One is, of course, via DNSSEC. And the CA browser form actually mandates the use of DNSSEC for DNS lookups from March next year. So essentially from March next year, we have like kind of the underlying requirements satisfied to actually give concrete security benefits with this draft or with these tags. And the other way is using secure channels to authoritative name servers. So there are ongoing deployments effort with Let's Encrypt for this. And like the main advantage of this, in my opinion, is that we can secure a large part of the domain namespace compared to DNSSEC, which still has relatively low deployment numbers, by only deploying these channels to a few select authoritative name servers. One other big advantage is there's no domain owner opt-in necessary, right? With CA records, the domain owner has to actually upload them. But with this, as long as the domain owner has an authoritative name server that has such a secure channel, they will get the security properties. Of course, this is still in very early deployment, like even Let's Encrypt is currently implementing it. So this is probably a bit more long-term compared to DNSSEC, which is available from next year. Next, I want to talk about the 4 cryptographic domain control validation methods we have in a draft. I try to order them, what in my opinion is kind of the effort in implementing those. So from least effort to highest effort. So for the first one, it's HTTP validation over TLS. Essentially, the CA will perform a regular HTTP 01 validation, but they will simply do it over TLS instead of doing it over regular HTTP. And they have to verify that the certificate in the TLS used in the TLS connection is valid. So I think this is a relatively easy lift for many CAs. The second one is known account specifier, where the domain owner puts his, for example, Acme account URI into a DNS record, which is then securely retrieved, allowing a CA to only issue a certificate if it comes from this account. So if CAs already support, for example, RFC 8657 for this account, specifying these account URIs in CA issue and issue wild records, I think the effort of implementing is relatively low, since they only have to connect essentially their code base, which does the CA lookup, and the code base, which does the DCV, right, and make sure the signal is transferred to the other code base. Furthermore, the CA browser forum recently passed ballot SCO 88, which allows DNS persist validation. And we believe that in the future, if these validation methods get traction, we could significantly increase the amount of domains that could benefit from our CA security tag. The next method is secure DNS record change, which is similar to DNS 01, but the CA has to ensure that all DNS lookups are done securely, so via DNSSEC or via one of these secure tunnels. There's some additional restriction. For example, you cannot have CNAME to an unsecured domain, since if you do that, you lose the cryptographic guarantees. So we believe this would require a bit more effort to implement, but it's still doable for all CAs that already implement DNS 01. And finally, we have the private key control method, in which the domain owner specifies a public key, adds it to a DNS record, and the CA then validates using an interactive challenge response protocol whether the requester of this certificate actually owns the corresponding private key. So since we have to define the exact wire format and like some more details on this interaction, we believe that this is a bit more long-term vision. That's not something that we can do very soon. That's already all from my side. For the next step, so we'll of course continue our implementation efforts, both with the OpenMPIC implementation as well as with Let's Encrypt. I'm also planning to add a few more details on the secure DNS record change and the private key control algorithms or methods. And one more thing I wanted to mention, we also have an academic paper on this tag where we explore the achieved security properties a bit more in detail with like formal analysis, which is currently under peer review, and hopefully by the next IETF meeting, this should be accepted if everything goes well. And from the working group, we would like, if you have time to look at the draft, to give us feedback on how you think we could improve it. And of course, if there are other CAs than Let's Encrypt who are interested in being early adopters for this security CA tag, we will be more than happy to work with them and help them set up an early deployment. Yeah, that's already everything from my side. Thank you very much. And I see we already have a few questions. So maybe we can go to that.
Bob Beck, OpenSSL, reproducible domain validation fan, or verifiable domain validation fan. Your public key, proof of key ownership stuff. Yeah. I noticed you mentioned, oh, you got to publish it in the DNS or stuff, but you are eventually getting a CSR with that public key in it. There's probably no reason that you couldn't validate that. We've got a few ideas on that. We should probably talk. I'd happily deal with something. By the way, yes, this is a very good thing. Yeah, the whole thing is a very good thing. It's just
like we had some discussion in our group regarding like how should we do this the private key control. Like should we just sign the CSR? Should we only sign like a few key attributes like the public and the domain name? So I think that's what I said. Like I think it needs a bit more deliberation on how to like make this like usable and also secure.
In a past life, we've been through a bunch of machinations about that. So I'd be happy to play along with that if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Victor?
You mentioned secure connections to the domain's name servers as one of the mechanisms. I hope that includes secure connections also to its parents and all the way up to the root, because otherwise you wouldn't even know what the name servers are in the first place, right? So it has to go all the way up to the top.
Yes, exactly. So I kept it very simple, but you're right. Like, of course, you need to have, then DNS is a hierarchy, so you need to have either like channels all the way to the root, or you need to have like a combination of DNSSEC and channels. Yeah, if we have a bit more time later, I have some additional slides with details on this, but maybe we can first go through the questions.
Hi, CAA inventor here. Also the expert. So if we're going to do the tag, get in touch with me. Yeah, it looks like a good thing to do, and we probably would have done it at the start. Only there wasn't Acme back then.
I see.
The concern that I would have is you're going to have some registry somewhere to label the validation types. And we've got to work out how that is managed, in that I don't think that we want to have this tied to you must validate via Acme, because you might have other mechanisms. And I would prefer not to create yet another registry. So we might need to do some jiggery at the Acme side and say, this is a registry of validation mechanisms and not a registry of Acme validation record.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like what we tried in this draft is to keep it Acme agnostic, so it should work for any CA, not only Acme CAs.
Wes?
Wes Herdeker, Google and ICANN board, speaking only for myself.
So also I run broot, and we're the only authoritative server at the root that actually supports TLS. And the reality is that 9539, I just had to go look it up. That's why I had to run to the microphone, is only experimental, which is how to communicate with an authoritative service. So the reality of you getting that entire chain that Victor pointed out is not going to happen anytime in the near future. You know, none of the TLD, or very few of the TLDs, there might be one or two, I don't know. I support the goal of this entirely, but that particular bullet is almost impossible to do in any rapid deployment.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think since the draft we referred to is only like opportunistic, we need to also make sure we ensure that we're connected to the correct name server and that this connection is secure, definitely. So this is something that is probably a bit more long term. I think it's nice that we have the DNS requirement from next year, so we could already start with kind of the DNS sec version of our tag, and then later on we could maybe transition it to a secure channel deployment.
Aaron? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Just to the commenter earlier whose name I didn't catch, Acme is also working on, or talking about at the very least, a variety of proof of key possession things. Yeah, there's a whole thing. I have thoughts and ideas about introducing a public key identifier type and a variety of challenges that let you prove control over that key pair, ways to do that, including CSRs, but also other mechanisms. So I think, yeah, there's parallel useful work on the verge of happening in Acme.
Wes, you want to follow up?
Well, my only comment was, if you have DNSSEC, you don't need to transition away from it. That is the secure signing mechanism, right? So you don't need to go to trying to get everything in the entire tree to be, you know, protected. Once you have DNSSEC stop, that's actually the right solution.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree. Like, DNSSEC also provides stronger properties than the channels. I think it's just what we observed when we look at kind of the landscape. It's still relatively low, and with these channels, we could actually kind of achieve security for a large amount of domains right now. But I agree, in theory, DNSSEC should be the end goal. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Composite is next.
Turn it down. So yeah, Mike and I are going to talk about the composites. We're hoping it shouldn't take too long today. So composite signatures, so they're ready for celebration. We achieved working group last call, yay. We got OIT assignments, yay. You can see at the bottom there, put the timeline in. We started in March 2019. So it's been a long go. So we got OIDs submitted to IESG for publication. Obviously, we have to go through reviews and things, so there'll be some more editing to do. But thanks everybody that has helped. So that's it for composites signatures. I'll let Mike talk about chem. There's a few things to talk about there.
Okay. Hi. So yeah, this exploded on CFRG last week. More spaceships. So okay. So I'm trying. We've switched to ASCII. I think we have switched to ASCII. I think we have mostly switched to ASCII. There's still an email that came in 20 minutes ago that suggests maybe we shouldn't switch to ASCII, and we need to sort that out. The current proposal, as of when I wrote these slides on the hackathon weekend, is that, let me back up a step. We have a reference implementation for this in Python, which is attached to the draft. It's in the same GitHub repo in GitHub Lamps. Python implements this. Richard Barnes, who's the author of the CFRG draft and the HPKE draft, he has a reference implementation in Rust. Over the hackathon weekend, we achieved full interop using the 3 labels. So these are labels. We're talking about labels. We're talking about strings that get rolled into the KDF. These are not code points. These are not names. These are not in an IANA registry. These are not These are just string constants that get embedded in source code so that both sides can do the same key derivation hashing. Those are the three strings, the \dot / caret \, which we're going to now just like forget is an ASCII thing and just pretend it's some magic hex constant because that makes implementation easier. And then those other two ASCII strings, we got full interop. I can decaps their stuff and get the same shared secret. I can encaps for their public keys. I think we're good. I think we're all fine with this. There's debate about, yeah, now we have this random magic hex value, which doesn't look like the other style of strings, but I think we're all just going to bite that and move on. So unless anyone wants to cause debate, because we're done, this is closed. If anyone wants to reopen.
Mike, just for clarity, your quote should end before that parenthetical hex. Just that
I accept your friendly amendment to my slides.
Yep. Just that everybody doesn't think that string has a bunch of hex characters in it.
Yeah, and so part of why this has been so back and forthy is the / in the constant has caused implementation problems. Like at the hackathon, we've run into that / when you run it through the Rust compiler, it takes it as a / dot, and then it's blah, 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 blah. And it's been like interop nightmare, but like, we're just going to forget that that's ASCII and just treat it like a hex constant and move on. So all the authors of all the drafts are in agreement. This is done. We're not doing this anymore. I will come to you to tell you that this is done. We're not doing this anymore. I see Nick. I see Nick is coming to the microphone.
This is why we have a hex.
Hey, so it's great the authors have agreed. Nobody's published a version with anything updated yet. That's should be, it's on the GitHub page, right? Is that what you're doing interop with?
Lamps has a new version updated. Yes,
Lamps has a new version updated. Okay, great. Okay, my question here is just, I asked this on the list as well, like this magic character with all these slashes, why are we biting the bullet for this?
Installed base. Because it's shipped. And it has been shipped for like, I think over a year now. Sorry, Sophie Schmeek, Google. It has been shipped for over a year now. Like, this is just what happens if you bike shed eternally. At some point, people are going to go with something that is defined. I don't care what labels we're using in any way. I think that the spaceships are cute, but if you want ASCII labels, then we use ASCII labels. Nobody ever sees those labels. You can literally use whatever characters you want. But the X-Wing one at this point is just, it's done. It's water under the bridge. We have more I don't even know how many implementations of X-Wing are they out there these days. It's quite a lot. We should really not change that. Like, let's just get this out and agree that it took way too long already. And like, it's there and it has its wonderful hex representation.
So Sophie said we care about timing more than we care about correctness here. Just do it.
Yeah, Dennis Jackson, Mozilla. So this was asked on the list recently, and I went back looking for exactly how many messages have discussed this topic. I think I've given up at 100, but it's a lot more. So I think this has been litigated to death. As far as I can tell, everybody is happy. It really doesn't matter what's in there. Code is already running. I can see absolutely no reason to rediscuss this. I think we're all in a happy place.
Yeah, I guess my last clarification for it's shipped as a justification, it's shipped in lamps or it's shipped where? And how does that relate to this group?
Sophie, is that a question for you?
So implementations that I know of are at least Google's Boring SSL, and I think Apple has shipped it, and I think Amazon has shipped it. I assume that there are more than that, even. But maybe.
No, I wasn't asking about libraries. I was asking about protocols like this, like what we're defining here. Has it shipped in any protocols? Maybe the underlying primitive is there, but that compares to my Just to clarify, I'm looking for an answer to which protocols this is shipped in. I mean, libraries can expose primitives all they want, but is it integrated in a LAMP stack, for example?
It's integrated in HPKE, so that is a protocol.
HPK is not a protocol yet. HPK is used by protocols.
I mean, this is the
Yes,
you know.
and it has shipped in HPKE, which is used in protocols.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. There are various libraries in the world using this code point. That's it. Second.
Yeah, it's just a label. So
just a
the-
label.
The
Yeah,
point
sorry.
is, like, we're all agreeing that this is the thing we're using, and the fact that some things are shipped, that's fine. We're just interoperating with them, right? Let's just go out with that. Like it's done.
Absolutely.
I would also add, we have a hackathon group that has like 30 or 40 participants every round. We've been interoperating this for multiple rounds of hackathons. Every time we change the reference test vectors, we have to get the hackathon group back together. Like, can we just be done?
No, I mean, that's basically the thing. To Nick's point, we could continue this discussion if we wanted to. We don't want to. And so if both sets of authors are ready to be done and want to be done, I think we respect their wishes.
Scott, you're second.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. So here's Guilin from Huawei International. Yeah, I may miss some discussions there, but anyway, yeah, first congratulations for the last call. Yeah, my question is that I would like to know how you actually removed the randomness number R for signature pre-processing the message. I checked the change history, did not find any notes for this, no explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, there was discussion like on the mailing list and with people. There was lots of discussion after that. So the randomizer in the last, well, I don't know what it was, a version 8, I think, a bunch of versions ago. At the last IETF, we had the randomizer that was part of the message format. Some point with lots of discussions, there was discussions, I believe some emails. It was removed because it didn't seem to. We added it to remove something that an attack that we were calling mixed key forgery attack. But anyway, it turned out like after many discussions, it was decided it wasn't really adding value, and the cryptographers like Sophie and others that we talked to said that it's no longer really needed or added value. So given it did add complexity, it added an extra step. You had to create this randomness. We said, well, if that's what people want, we will remove it. So that's what happened.
Okay, thanks. I also like to remove it, but I just like to get the confirmation from you.
Yeah,
okay.
Great. Thanks.
Back to X-Wing. This is a tempest in a teapot as far as I'm concerned. If we were designing from scratch, yeah, that's silly. We wouldn't do, there's no reason for us to do that. We're working on existing art. It doesn't cost anything, so let's just ship it.
Thank you, Scott. Does that drain my queue?
No.
That
I've just a quick question. None of this affects TLS, right? This is all CMS and the like, right? We're not doing these chems in TLS.
It depends if you consider HPKE and encrypted client hello to be TLS or not. Dennis Jackson says no. Okay, good. Moving on.
David?
I'd like to briefly read from the Google Cloud KMS documentation. Key encapsulation algorithms, blah, blah, blah. Algorithm names. MLChem 768, MLChem 1024, Chem-X-Wing. That is a deployed chem with the existing label using X-Wing. Everyone here missed the boat. It shipped.
Thank you.
I see Nick having thoughts about whether a blog on a company's website is okay. I'm going to click the next slide and we're going to be done with this. Yes? Great. Because this one's also spicy. And you guys are going to have opinions. Chems, private keys. We like seeds. I'm not talking about seeds. I'm talking about public keys in private keys. Because the chem combiner with the QSF construction requires you to hash the traditional, not the MLChem, but the traditional, the ECDH or the RSA, public key needs to go into the hash function, which means both the sender and the receiver need to agree on the public key, or else you don't get the same shared secret. And so after lots of back and forth, we thought, well, how do we, someone pointed out somewhat recently, that it wasn't specified in the draft how the decapsulator was supposed to get their own public key. And we're like, oh, you can often derive an ECDH public key from the private key, but not necessarily always. And an RSA that could potentially be not an API that's exposed or whatever. So we thought, all right, fine. We'll just define the private key encoding to contain the public key, and then you don't have to worry about where it comes from. I expect a mic cue about this.
Daniel Hengist, this is fine. You might be able to derive a public key from a private key in general. That doesn't mean that your instance can actually do that. Maybe your private key is in an HSM, but you're doing the combination above the level of HSM. Maybe you can't get the public key from the private key in that instance. So I didn't like implementing it, but it's fine.
And that was, yeah, and that was exactly the discussion we had in the authors group. Was your chem combiner might exist outside the crypto module. You might not reliably be able to get your own certificate. If you're the decryptor, traditional stacks might not give the public key to the decryptor, because why would you need it? So we just thought, let's just carry it, and then it's easier. So that would be, yeah. If no one objects, I see Victor's in queue.
Yes. Where exactly are you sticking this public key? Are you talking about PKCS8 having a private key that now has a public key tacked on the end? What's
Tacked
going on
middle,
here?
In fact, tacked in the middle. In fact, tacked in the middle. In fact,
Tacked in the middle. This doesn't make much sense, right? Because we have PKCS8 already supports having, right, it's V2 or V3.
No, because we are not carrying the composite public key. We are carrying the public key of only one component. If you, like, the semantics of P8 would say that the composite private key can optionally carry the full composite public key. We do not want to carry the full composite public key. We don't need to carry the MLDSA public key. It's only the traditional one that matters here, which is why we did not use the optional PKCA public key field, but instead we did this gobbledygook.
Yuck.
Yes.
I mean, the person that pointed this out to us, they were from Oracle, right? So at the Oracle Java team, right? So the Java APIs, for instance, don't give them access at that level to derive it from, the EC or RSA. So then previously, anyway, I won't go back into the history of it, but it used to be there when we had ASM1, but we're not going to talk about that anymore. So it is what it is. And like, I think what Dan said, I mean, it's okay, right? Like we need it. This is the easiest way to get it. I know it's not pretty, but that's the way it is.
So when we talked about MLChem, there were lots of people objecting to having redundancy and that the components might be mutually inconsistent and that various checks need to happen. Where are all of these people here, where all of a sudden you can have an alleged key pair and nobody's mentioning that, gee whiz, the two might not be consistent? What's going on?
Thank you, Victor, for making the point I wanted to make. I think if we have this, then the question arises. Then we have to make the choice: do we allow inconsistent public key, private key? Does it matter? Then we have to go back and think about whether it actually matters. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I doubt that you can't derive public key for private key with ECC. That should always be possible. With RSA, from the top of my head,
Boss?
Yes?
It's a question of what your smart card P11 exposes in its API, right? It's not a question of math. It's a question of what your device is going to expose as an API. If the private key is in hardware.
But you're going to need to add the post quantum to it anyway, right? So then you also can just add a. Okay. That's what I wanted to say.
Bob, join the queue if you want to talk.
Also, as someone who is concerned about consistency checks, yes, you should absolutely check for consistency whenever you can. Like, yeah, rederive your public key when you can. That is what at least Boring SSL does, as far as I know. And I think every library that can should absolutely do that. If you can't, then this is fine. For RSA, you can't technically, except that in real life you can, because you know that the exponent is always going to be 65,537.
I will take an action to write secure considerations around consistency checks. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, boss. Next topic.
Corey, just a quick question. Did you guys specify, like for ECDH, whether or not you use compressed or uncompressed points?
Yep, that's all.
Okay.
It's all locked down now.
Really don't love this. Sorry, Dennis Jackson, Mozilla. Really don't love having more stuff here. You know, if it must be done, this seems like the least bad way to do it. But
I will also point out that the private key is non-normative in that the document actually specifically says the private key. This is a suggested implementation, but others are allowed if you have private keys in two formats. For example, I've been telling people, if you have private keys, if you need to carry the MLDSA expanded private key, you could do one P12 containing two P8s. Like, the draft gives wiggle room for private keys. If this really absolutely doesn't work for you, it's a private key. You can do something else in your own stack, right?
no, absolutely, I understand that, but maybe that's an argument for keeping this simpler.
Yeah, the argument could go the other way. I suppose if you can't get the public key, then you have to do something off spec.
The queue's empty. Next slide.
Okay, yeah, so this one, so if you remember, we used to have the use in CMS parts in each of the documents, the signatures and the chem. We removed them because there was lots of questions and we didn't want to hinder the drafts moving forward. So now the authors group has got together, we're actually going to start these drafts. So the one question for the working group is, since when the documents got adopted, they did contain a use in CMS that got pulled out. Can we still consider that as being adopted, and can we just post draft IETF LAMP CMS composite and chem as well?
This chair considers those adopted.
Okay, that's great. That was the main question on those. So you'll see those coming probably soon. Actually, we had Dan Van Gies join us in the author group, so he'll make sure we get it through quick. Okay, great. So just 2 minutes for bonus stuff, if that's okay. From the hackathon, so this weekend, there was 6 different implementations of the composite signatures with the final OIDs going on. So this is our automated matrix now. You don't see 6 columns there with all green yet because they're in construction. Not everyone got their artifacts submitted by the end of the hackathon, but I expect, in the next month or 2 or even weeks that a lot of these columns will be green. And of course, if more of you want to interop with us, come do that. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, as a plug for the hackathon, the reason this is 1 of 3 passing, that one is the reference implementation that belongs to the GitHub, which is sort of cool. We've GitHub automated so that every time we update the draft, that one is the live reference implementation, which I think is kind of cool.
So yeah, you can see at the bottom there too, the different implementations that were going on. And it didn't include Bouncy Castle, which we know has one. David wasn't able to join us at this hackathon. Composite Chem, so there is the reference implementation, and CryptoNext, which is Dan. They have an implementation, and we expect to see more of those come. Of course, we'd probably get through working group last call and have final OIDs for that at some point. That'll probably make this see more implementations there. And then just the last thing I wanted to mention, we also had automated CMS results for the first time. Again, thanks to Dan, that are integrating with OpenSSL and Carl. So, anyway, come out to the hackathon, join us, and do this stuff. So, anything else for composites?
Yeah, just a summary, right?
Yes, do a summary.
So the big summary here is signatures shipped. We have OIDs, IANA OIDs, all of the stuff we debated, the X-Wing labels, the private keys, that's all chems. So I just want to be clear to the working group. None of what we discussed here impacts signatures at all. The sticky stuff is all on the chem side. So I think signatures can go and we can keep bike shedding chems.
Are we done bike shedding? I'm just wondering.
That's up to the people in the room whether you're done
Yeah, I mean,
bike shedding.
like it seemed to me, like especially with the private key format for the chems, I know some people don't like it, but if you're okay with it, can we just say I'll agree that this is good? And like we're going through a working group last call right now, so if there isn't any more, I guess, screaming about it, we hopefully will get through that soon.
Victor's in queue.
Oh, okay.
Since we went for simplicity everywhere else, why don't we go for simplicity in the private key formats here? And the people who need to augment them can augment them in their own private formats. That's my sense of the.
Yeah, I think we have some action items to discuss. I suggest we don't reopen that right now. Let's go to the list with the technical stuff. Yeah? Yeah.
In the chat, people are agreeing with Victor.
Oh, cool. I mean, good. We wanted feedback. I want to get off the stage. I think give the time back to other talks, right?
Okay. Any other questions?
Anyway, thanks everyone for the many years of supporting composites.
For many years.
It's
of
been many
composites.
years.
Okay, next is MAC addresses.
All right. I'll be talking about. All right, control my own. All right, so I'm going to talk about MAC addresses in X509 certs. This is a draft that just got adopted like a week or two ago. And
turn it over. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. I was holding it wrong. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So just the problem statement. X5280 and other RFCs don't define a standard way to encode MAC addresses, also known as EUI 48 or EUI 64. Identifiers and certificates without the standards. There's basically a bunch of divergence. Some people use like the common name attribute with the hex representation of a MAC address. You might use like a homespun bespoke other name with an OID that was defined off of someone's private arc. So it would be good to have a uniform, standardized way of representing these identifiers. What we propose is an other name that you would put in the subject alt name or issuer alt name. And then we also define how to do name constraints. So we have a new OID. It hasn't been defined yet, but we have for the value a 6 octet string or an 8 octet string. And the 6 octet, of course, corresponds to a 48-bit address, and the 8 octets corresponds to the 64-bit address. The name constraints are represented much in the same way that IP address constraints are represented. You can the first 6 or 8 octets is the value pattern, and then the second set of octets represents the bit mask, which defines the significant bits within that value pattern that need to be need to match the actual address under consideration to be considered a match. And we have the validation routine there, pretty straightforward. You take the address under consideration. You do an exclusive OR with the value contained in the constraint, and then you AND it with the bit mask. And if that value is 0, then you have a match for the constraint. Here's the ASN1 module. Very straightforward. We define a OID to represent the other name of this type, and then we actually have the syntax, which is an octet string And we have size constraints there for the 4 possible values. The first 2 being for the value representation and the last 2 for the constraint. Just a couple examples. You format them in the octet string representation to contain the bytes of the identifier in the natural way. Have an example there on how to constrain universal addresses, which are basically the second bit of the highest octet would be asserted, and you would use that then to say the first. Yeah, so you assert it in the first in the value pattern, and then you have that's the same bit asserted in the mask pattern, just to say that bit's significant. So we have call for adoption. We're going to post the working draft, the internet draft this week, and we got significant feedback. Thank you, David and Mike, for the comments. And it might be ready for working group last call after we get that initial working group draft posted. I think 1 or 2 people on the list already alluded to that. So I see there's a queue already.
What is the use case for name constraints here? Who is going to be issuing certificates? Is it owners of devices or manufacturers? I don't see a use case for name constraints just yet.
Yeah, so that came up on the list. Some people said that there was no use case, but others thought that if you have a CA, it could issue intermediates to manufacturers that already have the name constraints asserted. So you could essentially have a name constraint that might just allow issuance for that particular manufacturer's identifier.
To be used just by that customer, so this would be a bilateral sort of thing, or what?
Yeah. So, for example, if the CA issues a certificate to manufacturer A has a specific MAC prefix, you can then encode a name constraints in that certificate issued to that manufacturer, such that they can only issue certificates that would be trusted for only their identifier.
All right, so this would be a customer issuing a certificate to the manufacturer so that the manufacturer can then sell them devices, right? Because I don't see a widely used CA, doing this with a manufacturer for the whole world, because the model just doesn't scale.
Sure.
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Weird, okay.
Following on Bob Beck, OpenSSL, quadratic algorithms in RFCs fan. If this is possibly, following on from Victor's thing, if this is possibly just somebody might want this, not a somebody does want this, the existing way that 5280 talks about name constraints, where they're applied all the way up the stack and must be matched on all the intermediates, frankly, sucks for what you're talking about. So I haven't looked at your draft. If you haven't changed that language, it might be a good idea to change it so that it's only valid on the leaf. And we can stop. If we have to implement this, we don't need to continue to do the same silliness we need to do for everything else.
A definition of one other name is not going to change the validation rules in 5280.
We could certainly say how that name constraint is meant to be evaluated, independent of 5280. Because that's not in there right now.
Okay. No, it talks about the various different general name and how they affect the validation.
Okay. I would like to fix this with you. Okay. Is that it?
Seems so.
All right. Thank you.
Daniel, CMS, the BCP.
Okay.
Okay, so we had presented this draft 2 IETFs ago and 3 IETFs. Oh, I guess I can click it. So it used to be called EUFCMA for cryptographic message syntax signed data, which is unwieldy. As from feedback in IETF 122, it was suggested that we should make it a BCP. So we renamed it. It's still sort of unwieldy, best practices for CMS signed data with regards to signed attributes. So if we have suggestions on how to fix that, make it more terse, we're open. It's based on Falco's work from 2023. This has been presented before, so I don't have to go too far into details. He updated the paper to add the second attack, the add SA attack. He had the remove SA in there, but the add SA attack was also presented at IETF 122. So in theory, nothing new for people here. So we're making the draft into a best practices draft. The main thrust of it is to restrict the usage of the ID data content type. I'll have a bit more information on that in the next slide. Russ provided lots of feedback on that on the list, so thank you. And in addition, the suggestion, well, should or must, that's, I guess, the question, to do recipient verification to ensure that the content type is correct based on the protocol that you're implementing, and to verify that the existence or absence of the signed attributes is correct. And we also added some optional mitigations where the recipient can check the content that's going to be signed, or the sender can check, sorry, the recipient can check the content that's going to be verified to ensure that it doesn't look like assigned attributes when it shouldn't be, and then vice versa for the sender side. So the restrictions to the ID data content type are that in any new uses of signed data, they shouldn't use it unless the signed data is MIME encoded content. And even in that case, the signed attributes would be required to be used during signing and verification. Another option, which was proposed by Carl on the list, was just to define a new ID MIME data type, content type, which then we would say all new uses of CMS signed data should or must use this new OID, and then ID data is effectively just left for whoever is currently using it. And then for existing uses of the ID data type, if the protocol that is using it is updated, then the update should align with the previous recommendations, and they should be explicit about requiring or forbidding signed attributes. And if they're explicit about it, then the recipients must check that and fail if the signed attributes is present or absent when it should not be. It's currently in a working group call for adoption until the 13th, and we're just looking, if it's adopted, we're looking for feedback, just small feedback, whether it should be should versus must in some cases, whether we should have the new OID assigned, the ID MIME data, or just leave ID data. And as I mentioned, if you want to provide feedback on the name, that's good too. So please adopt. Questions?
So during Sean's presentation earlier today, he talked about a CMC using ID data. You're not asking them to change.
No.
Okay.
Unless they want to.
Well, they do meet the other parts of the BCP in that they always have attributes.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I don't know the details of the changing, but if they always have attributes, and ideally they would say that they must, the recipient must check that the attributes are there and fail if they're not there, then that would avoid the attack that Falco points out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The 70-30 implementation.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Waiting for the slides.
Yep, 1 second.
I don't know.
It's EST renewal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, everyone. We'll talk about EST renewal information. So I'm here presenting on behalf of my co-authors, Michael and Mike. You know these guys. I'm new here. So let's get going. So we wanted to bring, like Acme published a similar kind of feature that allows the CA to tell the client when to renew that information or the certificate. So that's what we are trying to bring that to EST, because we see our customers and some need for a feature like this in EST too. So the goal is to allow that CA to tell them the client, hey, here is a certificate, but I want to renew that certificate at specific period of time, right? That's the main goal. You can also provide more information to the client, for example, to tell the client, you raise an alarm if you can't renew the certificate after a specific period of time, or maybe provide more information about the backup mechanism for the client to kind of make sure that the clients don't overwhelm the server. So that's the main goal for this effort, right? So we presented that last time. There was some interest, and so we just put a document with a little bit more information, and we would like to kind of get the feedback from the community here. And EST, like the way we want to do it is kind of extend the existing EST mechanism by adding a new endpoint, and the endpoint will be renewal info with a certificate ID that uniquely identifies that certificate. So that information would be certificate specific. Here is an example for request. You just send that request, and here is an example for response. In this case, we say exactly similar to what Acme is doing. Just hey, here's the window, and here's go and try to update that certificate during this time. There are a number of open issues here. I'm going to walk through those quickly, but like I want to get to the end of this, and because we're asking for adoption, if there is interest and there is people are willing to adopt this, we can kind of dig deeper into those topics or issues and address them, right? One issue that was discussed, maybe we need to add a new endpoint to allow the client to say, hey, to the server, should I try right now? So maybe it might add value, and we're not sure yet. So we want to kind of discuss this point. Another one is, what is this one? Okay, so this is, I think we're talking about sometimes you want to be able to, or like in the request that we talked about getting a certificate or renewal information for a specific certificate. So do we need also to do it or provide another endpoint? I think this is no. So, Mike, do you want to talk to this one? Like what? Okay, that's fine. So another one is around renewal information as a generic one, and the last one, like we sometimes copy information from the original RFC, and sometimes we just refer to the document. We are not sure what's the right balance there, so we want to get feedback from the community here. So the question is there interest? Should this be adopted? And if we get this adopted, we would happy kind of to dig deeper into those open questions and enhance this feature. comments, questions?
Hi, Sean Turner. So I thought CMC, or sorry, 7030 already supported renewal. If you Google through if you search through 7030, there's already text in there about how to do renewal. So on renewal.
Hi, Mike Ellsworth. Sean, so Acme has this draft called ARI, which just
Mhm.
passed, right? And it's saying to avoid all these clients coming back to the Acme server in a giant cluster, it can stagger you out and say, I suggest you come back tomorrow at 2:30 and you come back tomorrow at 2:35. We just want to bring that same thing to EST where the CA can sort of say, yeah, you're going to expire in October, but I suggest you come back for renewal starting in September.
So that seems like a great idea. I will also note that I believe CMC already supports this functionality by putting in a control that says pending, come back later. So there's some of it's already supported, but I guess for general PKCS 10s, maybe not. And that's probably what you're after, right? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions? Do you want to call for adoption?
So does anyone have concerns with having a call for adoption on the list in the next week or two? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, you wanted to talk about EST BIS?
It's one slide.
Oh, one slide.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
one slide. Yeah. So the document which you're considering adopting just previous is the third document I've been involved with for updating 7030. And some people have over the time said, hey, why don't you just, I hate patch documents. Could you please just rev the whole document? And at the time I went, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. It's too hard. But over the time, of course, we now have a whole conversation about different kinds of things we're doing with CSRs. And CSR is, the one piece of PKIX that still exists in Acme and many other places. And people would like to think about, I'd like to replace that with something else. We have a caution about second system effect on that. So that's a whole big can of worms. But if you were to open up 730 for 730 BIS, then you would have to decide if you're doing that or not. And one answer is don't do that. Just fix all the things, merge all the things, and do that. And that's a constraint effort that probably fits into LAMPs. If you want to do more than that, then we probably need a new working group. And maybe, Sean's frowning, but I'm not sure it's limited at this point. Anyway, so that's what I wanted you to think about. I don't propose to do it next week. I propose to do it next year. I propose to do it after all the chem sig blah 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 stuff is out of here because I think it's too busy for most people. But so what I'm saying is think about this. What would you bring to it? And how would you organize it? And would you participate? Would you write code? I mean, I think that's really the end of it. What problems do you want to fix? Or maybe you would rather it never changed again ever because you don't want to touch that code ever again. John, you want to go to the mic? Yeah.
Sean Turner, I think this is a to-be written document that Mike is proposing that he's going to start in sometime in 2026, which would update RC 7030, aka EST. Hell yeah, let's do this. There's stuff that's in EST that is borked. It's stuck with 1.2. The TLS unique feature is busted.
Right.
If
That's
you're
a
gonna,
good
if you're going to
example.
do 1.3, you're going to add 1.3. You got to say something about if you're going to do it over quick. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole bunch of
Didn't
stuff
think
you
about
could
that,
say.
but yes, okay.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that you should put in there to update the protocol. If it's used as widely as everyone keeps talking about, then yeah, we need to do this. And part of the LAMPs, while I understand Stephen Farrell would say it's limited, this is maintenance of protocols, right?
Right.
And this is one that PKIX did, and a lot of it seems like would squarely fit in here. I don't know if we did a new working group. I think that's just making me go to more other working groups. So let's just.
I
keep
don't
doing
care.
that. I know
I
you
just don't want
But,
to spend us. I just don't want to spend 6 months deciding about whether we're rechartering lamps or not. Right. So if you argue it fits in the charter, I don't care.
I would clearly provide text, the whole 9 yards.
Okay. So it's enrollment over quick transport.
Sorry, it's John. I have too many windows open, so I wasn't able to find the window to put in the queue. But yeah, I think we need this. I see you have the question about the quantum stuff. I think like what we did with CMP is we did update it with the BIS, and then we added support for chem. So I think we should do that. If you need help, I'm willing to help you there too, because yeah, we definitely need an
Right.
update for
And
this.
I would rather be working when it comes to the quantum safe stuff. I would be rather working against a published RFC with well-known libraries at that point. It's why I'm saying let's not do this next week, but let's think about this in our schedule as to what going forward.
Yeah.
Area director.
Hi, I added this to the charter, so you're good.
Oh, okay.
Maintenance of VST is in charter.
Okay.
So you can thank me later.
Will that be tequila or you want local wine? All right. Thank you very much. Take it to the list.
We're going to talk about attestation EKU.
Oh, Sean's. Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
I got one slide and we're at time. So if you can pull up the FND and SA stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're out of here. Hey, so there's this new FIPS that's going to come out eventually. It's not there yet. So I looked at the existing drafts and copied them. And then I went to the existing co-authors and said, hey, do you want to co-author? Some said yes, some said, give me a second. So I put up some drafts. I naively copied many things. And then Daniel pointed out some nice things like, hey, I know you're trying to avoid this private key format argument again, but you can't rely on seed apparently for FNDSA. You've got to change it. So what's in the draft is actually wrong. But we will fix it. But the idea is just kind of get a placeholder. So I guess at some point when we get through there is to figure out what to do. And again, it's the same thing. We're going to use the NISToids that when they get registered, but the syntax looks very much the same. We will have some discussion about private key formats, unfortunately. And again, I'm going to try to rely on so my co-authors with their magic, and we can get examples like we did for the last one. So we'll have signature keys so we can make certs and the like. So they'll have some test code. And so the question is, when might it be appropriate to start looking at figuring out whether we'd like to adopt these? Because they're basically the same drafts we already have.
With MLDSA, we adopted it well ahead of the FIPS being published so that once NIST assigned the OIDs, we had a way to get to publication fairly quickly. I think what you're saying is let's do that again.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing here is at least I knew the actual name of the algorithm as opposed to using the old one and then people being, why does it say dilithium? So yeah, Deirdre?
Hi, sorry, I didn't get in the queue. We probably don't have to worry. Actually, I'm not 100% sure about this. FNDSA has to deal with floating point. We have to be mindful of what we're asking our implementers to do to, I don't know, verify keys or when we're doing signing or when we're doing things like that. It's going to be a fiddly protocol to do in a side channel free way. Just difficult.
That was the one the two security considerations I knew about. I'm like, please get references for floating point. Please do side channel. So there's stuff in there already about that, but you're right. Absolutely. That's the part that's going to be.
No, I would support adoption of something for FNDSA, and I'm 99.999% sure it's going to be called FN-DSA because all the NIST people say so. There is a draft floating inside of NIST that is almost done, but they've had a long time to, because of the floating point stuff, nail down an initial public draft. But yes, eventual adoption, I support. It's just going to be possibly fiddly in a way that MLDSA and MLChem were not because of the floating point stuff.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for accommodating my agenda bash.
Thanks.
We have another draft too, actually.
We're not done yet. We have one more draft.
Actually, two.
No, it goes 11:30. Oh, 11. Sorry, my fault. Okay, thank you. We'll take it to Thursday. I misread the how long.
Yes. We have two drafts. There's yours and there's Jean-Pierre's.
Yes.
Yes, we made it a lot farther than we thought we were going to.
We made it. I thought the thing about labels was going to go labels. Because it's total bike shit. No one cares. So you can talk about it forever.